And it doesn't seem necessarily like this was one that's been, oh, it was maybe boxed off in the autumn, or a lot of it was done in the autumn and then you just kind of waiting and whatever. It really does seem like he was just available. Loads of good teams really wanted him and willing to pay a lot of money. And Liverpool convinced him more than anyone else. And what a great testament to what the manager has done and how successful Liverpool have been over the past few years that he's picked us over the others.
Absolutely. I mean, you're notoriously a patient man, Rob. So I'm sure you're very pleased.
This has tested me. Bloody hell.
But Dan makes a really good point there. We're talking about, we've heard so much from Liverpool in recent years about how they're opportunistic in the market. They're trying to look for things that can happen, players who are on their long board. If they come available, they try and go for them. But lots of fans have been very sceptical about that. This time it's happened, and it's happened in a massive way.
I think it's interesting because it's a sort of a balance between what feels opportunistic but also had to have been planned a way off, because you can't quite be opportunistic with this kind of buy. You have to. I think what it speaks to is the fact that Liverpool will draw up an A, B, C and D list well in advance, and usually the number one target they will have to acknowledge is almost ungettable or hard to get. Like if it's striker, it might be Isak. If it's midfielder, maybe it's Tchouaméni's on the list still. I don't know, those kind of level of players. So they've got to have a sort of, we don't expect to sign these players, but we've got to keep in the game strategy. And I think that's kind of what's gone on. And I think what they've done is read a room which is sort of where the shades of light in the room have changed subtly over the last couple of months. So I think if you rewind 6 months, I think Bayern probably got a firmish nod from the players' camp that they were his likely choice. And at that sort of distance, they were able to say, hey, we don't know what Leverkusen are going to charge. They could want silly money this summer, but by the following year, it's an easy deal to do. So, and his side of the problem, yeah, we're quite relaxed. Maybe we give it another year. Maybe we move the year after at a modest pace. Maybe I get a better, Florian gets a better deal in a year's time. So those kind of things were in play, I think. But as the season moves towards its end, as the rumour of Xabi Alonso leaving becomes more of a real thing, as the idea of getting Ten Hag as his replacement becomes a more scary, real prospect, as your best mate decides to jump ship for Liverpool, as other best mates indicate that they're leaving the Leverkusen thing, suddenly the appeal of doing one more year, and you've not won the league, by the way, with Leverkusen this year, but one more year, that club feels like a drag. And I think that played in. So Liverpool realised, player actually wants to move now, not in a year's time. His club want to maximise the fee, and Bayern want to piss about so that they can get him on the best deal. The planets are beginning to align. If we're firm with our pitch, we'll pay the top dollar, we'll play the player now, and then Arne comes up behind, does this amazing speech, much better than company can come up with, about how he's going to use him. I just think it's a victory for sort of keeping your options open, but striking hard when the iron becomes hotter.
Absolutely. I think the other cool thing to remember as well is that I don't think there's going to be a better player changing clubs this summer than Florian Wirtz. I think Liverpool have got the best player. Now, Rob mentions Arne's speech about how he's going to use him. I'm kind of fascinated by this. Like, because he's such a versatile player, there are so many different things you can do with him, but there is also the kind of school of thought of, you're paying this much money for him, let's just put him in the best place for him to go out there and do what he does best. What do you think is going to end up happening?
I would like him to play up front, and I think that that's what might happen.
Do you think? False nine?
Yeah.
Or left wing-ish?
They've got two really good left wingers that scored loads of goals last year.
But one might be going, unfortunately.
Maybe, but then you've still got the other one who scored lots. So I think it'd be strange to decide that the thing you needed to do as a priority would be to buy somebody else that also plays there. I like the idea of, which they did last season, certainly compared to sort of latter-day Klopp, of both wide forwards being really tight towards the goal and just being able to get loads and loads of shots away, because they're all pretty good finishers. If you look at like expected goals to shot ratio and stuff, they're all really, so if you just get them 5 shots in a match, they'll score 1, maybe 2. I think he's an enormous help with that. If he's able to drop that bit deeper, they can therefore play higher and narrower. You've got now 2 very fast and very high fullbacks that will be playing, so you end up just doing basically 2-3-5, which is what maybe 2018, 2019 Liverpool did an awful lot of, in a slightly different way, because you don't have like the passing of Alexander-Arnold anymore or something like that. And I also think it's what the best sides have been doing lately. So PSG won the European Cup and not having a proper centre forward, and sometimes, majority of the time it'll be Dembele, but then sometimes you see do it for 20 minutes, or Kvaratskhelia will do it for 10 towards the end of the game or whatever. And throughout the course of last season, I'm sure it's because he didn't really like the two strikers that he had, but Diaz must have played up front more than anyone by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I think he just likes that anyway, and I think that...
So not in Szoboszlai's position for you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think you need someone that runs really hard and runs backwards as well. And from what I know of it, I don't think he's a running backwards and sort of defending his own box at times type.
I mean, he's a good presser. He's got a good engine, but I don't know whether or not he was just trying to impress. But there were a couple of moments in that Germany game where he did chase the fullback back into the defensive third. But
I just don't think you're spending 100 million quid for your grafter.
But what about but I like that, and it was my first instinct when we were firmly linked. That would be this. Oh, we're not buying a striker. We're buying the ultimate false nine. That's what we're doing. But all the messaging has been about no, but they still want a striker after this. They still are after a striker. When you listen to the fellas in Germany, they all go, no, he's going to play in Szoboszlai's position. They're basically they're intimating that. So I'm linking that to the striker thing and thinking, I don't know. What you're saying is very rational, but then you think about it the other way. It's very difficult to riddle.
The strength of it is that you could also do both of these things and the thing off the left. So it could be that for example, you saw that when they did the sort of double 10 thing last year, a couple of games, that was at City. So maybe you would go to City and you would play him up front there. But then maybe when you're playing at home to Sunderland, they would rather just an orthodox striker, and that they'll buy one.
Four forwards.
And that they'll buy one as well.